Everyone, Jon and Will here. It's just the two of us today, and it's kind of an informal bonus episode today. Today, what we're going to be talking about is fatherhood, and this is because Father's Day is right around the corner. And let's see, today is June 11th, as Will and I are recording this, so we're about 10 days out. But by the time this airs, we'll be 4 or 5 days out from Father's Day. And yeah, we just wanted to, one, give a shout out to all the fathers that are out there.
Yeah,
Doing
exactly.
the best they can, which is what we're going to talk about.
Mhm.
And we want to talk specifically about different aspects of fatherhood. And we could look at it as the father ourselves, or we could look at it as looking at our fathers as children. And that is going to bring us to the topic or the aspects of fatherhood where we're going to be talking about forgiveness.
Mhm.
And specifically, we're going to talk about, ironically, using forgiveness as a weapon for peace, clarity, and connection. Because
Yeah.
that's what we've been talking about quite often on the show is connection. We did a special episode a couple weeks ago with David Valadez on the Spartans and the importance of connection, getting together. And now we're here to talk about that peace, forgiveness, and using it as a weapon for peace, clarity, and connection with our fathers or potentially as fathers. So
Yeah.
yeah, Will,
Yeah.
good to see you, my brother. How are you?
Yeah. Good to be back. Like, I think it's, what I'll say, John, is like how we're going to frame this conversation. Like, we're going to really talk about 5 things. So hang in there and listen to all of them because it's like this is building to something that's like, can be very, very profound for all of us. And we're going to talk about 5 things, and then we're going to have some steps at the end that you can take in order to kind of access that forgiveness instead of just listening about it. But first, we're going to talk about like how forgiveness is a very advanced, human skill. It doesn't sound like it is. It can be thought of as weakness and stuff like that, but it's just like it is. Why carry that burden? In a second, we're going to talk about, you know, uh, your father did the best he could, with what he had and where he came from. Right. I mean, it's like, we're hardwired to love, you know what I mean? So he did the best he could where he came from and things he exposed to, the programming he had. We'll dive into that. Third, self-forgiveness is the foundation of everything else that everything is built on is this self-forgiveness. Uh, and then fourth is forgiving your father changes how your children experience you, right? So we get deeper into relationships as well. And the last thing we're going to talk about, forgiveness doesn't end the story. It begins your own. Um, and then we'll talk about, 3 ways that you can kind of really experience forgiveness and maybe live in more of a forgiven state or a less burdened state and experience that clarity and the connection that we talked about in the beginning. So,
All right. So, Will mentioned all the things that we're going to cover today. And that first one that he mentioned is that forgiveness. And so many of us struggle with forgiveness because we think that, holding on to that resentment or that anger is strength, right? And in actuality, that is I think that's the easier thing to do is to carry around that resentment, that anger, and forgiveness is a much harder thing to do. And it, it's an advanced human skill, right?
yeah.
And to forgive, a lot of us as men, we kind of beat our chests because we're holding on to this anger. But to forgive is actually way harder. And a lot of us, as these men who beat our chests, see forgiveness as weakness when it's in fact not.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
and every man in the audience, right? We've been conditioned to believe that holding on to stuff is strength. I actually posted something earlier this week on LinkedIn. It's this guy. It's a uh, cartoon, and this guy is carrying a pack, and he walks past like a meditating uh, monk or something, and the monk says, why are you carrying that pack? What's in that pack? And the guy starts taking out rocks, and he's like, this is when one of my friends hurt me with something that they said 5 years ago, and I don't want to forget it. And he's like, well, why do you not want to forget it? Well, because it was given to me by a friend and it hurt. So I want to hold on to it. And then, the whole cartoon goes through multiple rocks that we're carrying around almost out of pride. It's almost like it's like
Yeah.
a badge of honor. Hey, I can carry these rocks. But what does it do to us?
Yeah.
What does it do to us? It makes us overly burdened. It makes us feel heavy, right?
Exactly.
And and we feel that letting that one rock go is like letting that person go, right?
Yeah.
Lets them off the hook, and
Right.
that's definitely a misconception that needs to be dismantled real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
So,
Well, each one of those rocks that you're talking about carries energy, and it's like, and that energy locks us down. Like, we've said many times here, like the body keeps the score. So if
mhm.
you're holding on to all that, it's like being housed. Like your body's like a house, right? And you're just packing away and hoarding all this, anger and resentment and all these negative emotions instead of forgiving and letting go. That's why this is because we're hardwired with this negativity bias, right? So when we have negative experiences, it just kind of reinforces that negativity and bias, right?
Mhm.
So if we've been wronged in the past, it's so easy just to carry around that emotion because it's kind of a lower state of our humanity. That's why they're referring to that. What we're talking about here is like it's an advanced skill because it takes a lot of mindfulness, it takes a lot of practice, it takes a tremendous amount of vulnerability to let this shit go. Um, and one thing, actually, I think it'd be very.
I just
I'm
got to
getting better.
interject real quick.
Oh,
So yeah,
yeah.
we're working with Will about his language, and it's not hey man, that's who he is. He's and our show is what it is, but there's different aspects of our business that we're working on, and we're like, hey man, we can't be bringing swear words into some of this stuff. And here he is spelling out shit. I love it,
Spelling
man.
out
That's
shit. I'm going to
progress.
say it now. Okay. Okay. So this is I
I
listened to
forgive
something
you. I
today.
forgive you for that.
Thank you, John. I'm trying to forgive you, John. Okay. Maybe at the end of the episode, David, I'm still mad at. All right. Uh, so how about this? So I think this is really interesting. We talk about anger, and this is one thing that helps us, that prevents us very often from forgiving, is holding on to that anger, and anger leads into vengeance, and just leads into more toxic thinking and actions, and it burdens a relationship tremendously, or just completely. You might not talk to your father or other people that you're angry with for a very, very long time, because this is what happens, right? I mean, anger is a very strong emotion that actually feels very empowering, right? Because of how much energy and the power it has within it, right? This is like, but I like this. The Buddha describes anger like this, and in such a beautiful metaphor. He says, anger, with its poisoned source, and it's honeyed tipped, right? So it's just like it's poisoned. It's a source of poison, but it has this honey tip. I mean, it's like there's a sweetness at the very tip of it, and that's why we kind of are drawn to it. That's why we kind of get pulled continually down into this negativity bias and the energy that kind of moves with anger. And it goes on here to say, like, there could be a lot of delight in this poison, um, because maybe you want to seek revenge, or, it has, like, also anger has its own kind of reward system, and, kind of feel like we're doing something by being angry and holding on to vengeance and stuff like that. But on the other side, it's like, there's been a lot of studies about forgiveness, and, they found that training forgiveness, it reduces stress, increases optimism and self-confidence. So there's a lot to be said to, like, letting go and forgiving. Um, and again, it's an advanced way of kind of emotionally regulating, instead of like being trapped, by the anger of vengeance and the anger of how you're wronged. And these things can go back, John, like, your whole lifetime. Because of one thing to happen when you're like 10, 11, 12 with your father or other people that are very close to you. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the research has shown that forgiveness was associated with higher optimism and self confidence. But again, coming back to that imagery of the guy carrying that heavy pack full of rocks, it also um, by practicing forgiveness, that research has also shown that people who forgive regularly have lower levels of depression, lower anxiety, lower hostility, right? I mean, you can imagine carrying that pack around is going to make you sad. It's going to make
Right.
you anxious. It's going to make
Yeah.
you irritable, right?
Right.
And as you take that load off, that weighted vest that you've been running around with, if you take that off, you're going to be lighter, and it's going to be easier to have a friendly conversation. It's going to be easier just to get through your day, to get through your work. So that there's a performance aspect to it too, right? It's from that purely performance lens, not forgiving is a losing strategy.
Yeah,
And
great
and
point.
and yeah, and granted, we're talking about forgiveness broadly here, but we're talking. We also want to, because of Father's Day, we want to talk about, and you know, I also want to be clear here. I had an amazing childhood, and my father is an incredible man. He has always been my hero, still is. Um, but every child, I think specifically men, when they get to a certain age, they start button heads with their father, and
Always.
you're gonna have some level of irritability, and I'm sure he has some level of irritability with me and my brother and my three sisters. But anyhow, that forgiveness for our father, we have to also realize, like Will said when we were talking about what we are going to discuss during the show, most fathers are doing the best that they can.
100%.
And there's going to be times when their priorities, as a father, you're often feeling like you're being pulled in a whole lot of different directions. And I'm sure the same, and I know the same for a mother as well. For our female listeners, this is not by our saying something about a father, we are not negating anything about a mother. I want to put that out there right off the bat, because
No,
I hate seeing something on Father's Day where somebody's celebrating a father or talking about how difficult it is to be a father, and then somebody in the comments on this social media will always be like, well, you got to see what it's like to be a mother. We are not we are
shut
not taking away how difficult it is to be a mother. But this topic, this
Yeah.
conversation, this episode is specifically about fatherhood. Anyhow, I'm running along here, but I want to just say um, that forgiveness for our fathers, I think, is incredibly important, because most of them are getting pulled in a whole bunch of different directions, provider and protector. And then, yes, our kids want to play with us, but at the same time, we have to make a paycheck, and we still have to protect the household. And again, mothers do too. But ultimately, forgiving our father is letting them know that we realize that they have done the best they could. Like, I know as a father myself, yeah, there's tons of books out there about fatherhood. I mean, freaking somebody texted me the other day, Bill Cosby had a book
Nah,
about fatherhood. And I said, what's chapter 2? Quaaludes? Like, like that's the last person I want to take any advice about fatherhood from. But for the most part, most fathers are doing the best that they can. And I know I'm doing the best that I can, but I know without a doubt, I have already effed up as a
yeah,
father,
yeah.
and I'm
Yeah,
going to continue to F up.
yeah,
Right.
but I
So,
think there's you know, we have fathers like, our dads are in their 80s, so that's a whole different generation.
yeah.
We're the next generation, the Gen Xers, which are another whole new group of fathers that, had a lot more information, exposure because of the internet. Millennial fathers are out there, and they seem to be even more emotionally attuned, which
Yeah.
could potentially lend itself to greater fatherhood just by being aware of their emotions. Because one thing we see here continually on the show, it's like the emotional literacy for men is low, very low,
Mm.
but it's improving. So it's just like, uh, again, they've done the best they can with where they came from, who they were raised by, the programming that they're experienced, the community that they were continually a part of, their fathers and the community that they were part of by their fathers, right? And if you go back even further, to the boomers and go back, I don't know what, I guess the greatest generation
Greatest
is the
generation.
one of the boomers, like, and they built this country, and they're all really good men, but like, like how many fathers were crying in the greatest generation? Like, if you can think about that as a way of just looking at being in touch with your emotions, it's like, like if there was ever a survey done from, the greatest generation to the boomers, to the X's, to the millennials, to, I guess there's even, very young Gen Z people now that are having kids, it's just like, I bet like if you put like a crying scale, the greatest generation probably was not doing much of that,
Right.
as a means of like actually being able to emote. If
Right.
you have ability to emote a little bit, you'll have a great opportunity to be in touch with your feelings. So all this to be said, it's just like this is really what changed for me, John. And it was like maybe 15 years ago, and I was like, I wish my dad would have done this, or my parents would have done that, and then I'm just like realized as I just got older, and we kind of share this wisdom with you, the younger guys out there that are listening. It's like this really hit me. It's like, wow, like how could he do anything different than what he knew and where he came from? And I was able to
Yeah.
kind of forgive him and just like look at him and be with my dad in a way that really allowed him to be who he is, and me to have that relationship with him, for who he is. And because you can't change people, you can have all that anger and revenge and would have, should have, and could haves, but it doesn't lead anywhere. Um, so again, I know that they've done the best they can. I mean, he put me through school. He had a roof over my head. There's always food on the table. I got it. I played lots of different sports and stuff like that, and he was there. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that's so.
And
Yeah,
that's, even I would say for the listeners out there, if you can't get to a point of complete forgiveness, maybe you can get to a point of understanding,
acceptance.
compassion,
Yeah.
acceptance,
Mhm.
yeah, curiosity, right? Like Will was talking about, what did he have? Where did he come from? What were the ideals and values? So I think there's a lot to that, and maybe those are just the first steps, right? Maybe you can eventually get to total forgiveness, but understanding that it's a road, it's a path to be walked, and there's
Yeah.
stepping stones along the way.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
so
well, one thing that we had Frank Anderson on the show a little while ago, and he talked about transgenerational trauma. This stuff is in our genes.
yeah,
So if your, father came from an abusive father, it's like, that's that's going to be part of his programming. And unless he really wants to do some deep work, that's going to event part of that programming, part of that generational trauma is going to be how he parents.
yeah.
So, I mean, hey, well, let's go to the
Well,
next one, John. Yeah, unless you want to say something.
well, no, I mean, I think we kind of dabbled across two of our points here between forgiveness being that advanced human skill, and number two, where your father did the best he could, where he came from. But one point that I want to talk about in regards to some of the research that's out there, actually two of them, when we're talking about the fact that forgiveness can help with anxiety and all this. Stanford did a study, and they saw that those who are able to forgive more regularly, quicker, when they engage in that genuine forgiveness, the prefrontal cortex activity, so that's the part of our brain that's responsible for rational and intentional thought, that that increases. And then the amygdala, that's the part of our brain that's responsible for that fight, flight, or freeze reaction, that reactive thought, decreases. And that, when we talk about mindfulness, what does mindfulness do? It does the same thing. It literally rewires the brain to increase the size and activity of that prefrontal cortex and decrease the size and activity of that amygdala. So that right there is a mindfulness outcome, that forgiveness. So I just want to touch on that. And then the other piece of research out of the University of Connecticut,
This is
they did
interesting.
they did a study of 1,500 people across 5 countries. So 5 different countries. It's not just the U.S. here. Found that parental rejection by mother, by father, or both predicts a tendency for vengeance in adulthood. While the flip side, parental acceptance predicts the capacity to forgive. I mean, how wild is that? I mean, but it's wild, but at the same time, when you think about it, it makes sense.
It
So,
does. Right. And
yeah.
I've seen this acted out in people that I'm very close to,
Mm,
that
mm,
acceptance of, oh, and yeah. And then shame comes up. It's like, oh, I'm the problem. that kind of stuff. So it's just like it goes really deep, and this is why forgiveness is so powerful, and this is the best gift you can give yourself and to your father.
Yeah.
This Father's Day is just learning to forgive. Um,
Yeah.
well, let's get into, well, how does it really start? Right, is through self forgiveness. Right,
Yeah.
this is the
Oh man.
foundation. So if you can
Huge.
learn and understand how to start forgiving yourself for whatever it is that you need to forgive yourself for, um, that's when things really can change. A lot of men carry decades of self blame, guilt, shame, that they've never even really analyzed or even named, let alone released it. And this is self forgiveness is it's something that can help you to just really look at it. This is like just to look at the parallels between forgiveness and mindfulness, right? They're like right there. I mean, because it's just all about energy, right? This is all about emotional energy that we carry with us. And if we're not going to take the light of mindfulness and shine it on this part of ourself, then nothing's going to change. Because without awareness, there's no place to go. You just keep going into the same habits and keep experiencing the same patterns and cycles in your relationships.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. And we talked about self-compassion, and I know we're going to talk about that here in a little bit, but so much of self-forgiveness comes from that self-compassion, and understanding, first off, that you're a human being, right? You're not perfect. You're going to make
yeah,
mistakes, so you can
yeah.
back off on some of that blame and that guilt and shame,
Mm,
and then understanding that the as you start to forgive yourself, it's going to be easier to forgive others around us. And I know we're going to talk a
yeah,
little bit more about that here in a second.
yeah.
Uh, but more research, right, is that Stanford, they found that people who and Stanford, Will is a Stanford ambassador for
Uh,
compassion, which
Let me
is
side note, I just applied to speak at Stanford,
hell yeah,
on
dude,
their campus in, October. So we'll see. I just applied
amazing,
yesterday. Yeah, we'll see, we'll
heck
see.
yeah,
That'll be cool.
yeah,
Anyway,
man.
sorry, yeah, sidebar.
Well, we
Yeah.
all wish you good luck for that.
Thanks,
But
man.
yeah, you're gonna be the next Andrew Huberman out there, man. So
No, that'd be fucking awesome, dude. Blow this channel up, man, talking
yeah,
mindfulness.
there you go.
Anyway,
Well,
keep
anyway,
going, sorry.
that research found that ties between self compassion it directly ties to higher levels of focus, which is that's think about
Imagine that.
how much work you're doing these days where you're unfocused because of resentment that you're holding on to.
Yeah.
So that's for your father, your mother, your whoever. But if you can let that go, again, you're going to be more focused. You're going to be more productive, and again, your performance is going to go up. And that's because that self forgiveness and self contempt, neither one of them are neutral. They're either adding to your life or taking away from your life, right? The self contempt is producing that anxiety. It's producing that reactivity. As a father, you're going to be more distant. And then the self forgiveness, it produces the exact opposite. You're going to be less anxious. You're going to be more responsive than reactive. And then you're going to be way more present with your kids.
You're gonna be more emotionally available because
Yes.
you're not
Yes.
like the emotion of all the negative things you just talked about aren't messing with the lights in the background. You know what I mean? You're gonna have, like really, that's one thing that I've
Yeah.
seen. It's just like when I hold on to stuff, whatever it is, it's just like somebody is just fuck and with the lights with the lights in the background. You know what I mean? It's just like why like they putting the dimmer on again? It's like, and this is like a great opportunity through self forgiveness to start to do the work uh to let go of that burden, but also learn how to forgive. So what happens if instead of if you stop punishing yourself for yourself as a father or a son? What would it feel like if you put that weight down? Not to forget, but to stop carrying it into every room you walk into.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this stuff. It's like we like to think as men. Oh, I heard somebody or someone talk about the difference between men and women, and
Yeah. Tell me,
yeah,
please.
yeah, oh yeah, I know, and we'll do the Becca chat test. Uh, we'll have to ask her. Women are like spaghetti, right? It's just a bowl of like, noodles, and, one
All
noodle
connected.
leads to the other and shit. And men are like fucking waffles.
Yeah.
Compartmentalize, 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 compartmentalize. And we think that we can compartmentalize, but the way the body's designed is just one very intricate, sophisticated system that we either uh, work with what we got, right? We're completely plastic as human beings, our body and our mind. And once we kind of know our own engineering and how we're wired, then we can start to let go of things. And just because something happened, 12, 15, 30, 40 years ago between you and your dad, and if you ever forgiven that moment, how much is already being layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of things being piled on top of that. And what happens if you, this Father's Day or anytime after Father's Day, you go to your father and ask for forgiveness or bring it up, or maybe you wronged your father in some way, and that still sits deep with you. It's like there's an opportunity there, but I guess to finish this point is like you don't need to carry this with you all the time. And even because it happened decades ago, your body doesn't understand time. It does as far as longevity in your cells and shit, but your mind, no, it just
Yeah.
doesn't. It's just there. So that could be one way to start to heal your relationship and develop that clarity and that deeper connection with your father. Weaponize
Yeah.
forgiveness.
I liked how you said ask for forgiveness, because a lot of what we've been talking about is forgiving our fathers.
Yeah,
But at the same time, asking for forgiveness from our fathers is, I mean, I know I've wronged my father. I know it, and I'm sure there are plenty of ways that I don't even know that I wronged him. And yeah, asking for forgiveness from my father for who I am and for the things I've done,
yeah,
like that's another huge step.
yeah.
But I want to come real quick, last point on self compassion and kind of self forgiveness. Um, we've had Kristen Neff on the show, and she's a self compassion like master, and she's done a lot of research on this, and a lot of her research maps directly to what we are teaching in our awareness to action
Mm,
course, the kind of the framework. Um, so we call it awareness. She calls it accepting your
mm,
discomfort without judgment, right? And
mm.
without judgment, that's a key piece of mindfulness wherever you go. Shared humanity. Will talks about that regularly because his being a compassion ambassador. That shared humanity is like understanding this is what it means to be human, right? We're not perfect. As a matter of fact, like I think it would be a really boring world if we were all perfect, but we're not. We're human, and I think that's beautiful. And by being so, that doesn't make us a personal failure. And then the kindness toward ourselves, like what do I need right now? And then finally the action. So our course is called Awareness to Action, and this is where it kind of all ties together. What can I do to move forward? What can I do to move forward, and not just move forward, but move forward with integrity? And that sequence right there is our Awareness to Action A2A course, module 1 through 4. So that's my end of my shameless,
Yeah, no.
shameful.
Well, I mean, it's like again, if you want to be more skillful, if you want to leverage, one of the most powerful things that you can do for yourself and other people, it takes work, and it really starts about becoming aware, and that awareness really starts by being aware of your mind and your feelings and the environment and your relationships. So, I mean, it's that's why we had the show, John, because of how these skills that we've developed have really changed and transformed our lives in so many different ways. And it's not like there's definitely still work to be done. I know I have a lot of work to be done. But at least I'm aware of that there is work to be done, and always seeking to become more skillful by leveraging different modalities and stuff like that to actually become better with myself and better with other people. Um, and one thing about like, shifting into this next one, um, what happens when you begin to be more forgiving, leverage forgiveness, experience forgiveness, let go of those feelings, you could probably talk to this, John, too. It's like you actually become a different father to your own kids. So,
Yeah.
mm,
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think that's one, you're showing that you're showing the example, you're leading by example. Like, hey, um, I can forgive my parents. And so I hope that one day, if not right now, you can forgive me. But they also that see that you realize that your parents weren't perfect. And maybe now they, as young as they might be, I've got the young kids, and they're starting to see now that I'm not perfect, right? Like, actually, my 9-year-old and 7-year-old have probably known for a while, but my 5-year-old is just now starting to see, like, oh, wait a minute, Dad's not perfect. But they see that, and I think that when they see that my capacity for forgiveness is there, then that can predict their capacity for forgiveness, and not just for me, but their capacity for forgiveness for anyone, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
when they see that me forgiving my children develop that empathy, that stronger emotional regulation, emotional
amazing.
connection, and then those children, my children, ideally, will forgive more easily. It's just like what we were talking about before, understanding where your parents and their parents came from. Well, now this is it, looking at it from a slightly different angle is, what do our kids see in us? Well, they have to see us modeling something, and that's where the cycle breaks
Mm,
or continues, right? If
right,
that,
right,
it depends on
exactly.
what the father does. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting how, man, well, God, like we're talking about like two different sides of our humanity here. It's like, going into more empathy, compassion, and that's all has everything to do with like, we've done, we've all trying to do, we're doing the best we can, and like we're going to make mistakes along the way. But instead of, you know, being so negative about those mistakes and like, having guilt and shame or being angry or defensive or whatever else, it's like about those feelings. It's like, we can, I don't know. I love the empathy piece that we're beginning to uncover here as well. It's like, because that's really, the more empathetic we are with ourselves and other people, it's like, and understand that we're a, we're a mess, and we just
indeed,
are. We're just a big emotional mess. But it's a whole experience of rising and passing away. But when the experience doesn't pass away is when we hold on, and it just gets so much more complicated, and life gets a lot more difficult, and has huge biological effects, physiological effects. It affects our relationships when we hold on to things. So I think that's a beautiful point, John. About
yeah,
mhm,
yeah,
yeah,
and it's not like, so. This is if you don't have anything else, this my comment's going to take us into that last point that we want to talk about.
yeah,
Um, it's not like if we forgive whoever may have wronged us. And again, in this particular episode, we're talking about either our father has wronged us in some way or we have wronged them. It's not like when we forgive that's the end all be all. It's the final chapter, right? It's a
yeah,
new chapter. It's the beginning of a new chapter.
yeah,
And
yeah,
again, I'm going to continue to nerd out on the research here, but and Stanford is clearly big on this. They found that um, they have a Stanford Forgiveness Project, and
mm,
they found that forgiveness training produced that increased optimism, self confidence that we talked about, the reduction in the belief that you are a victim of other people's choices. That last piece, that shift from victim of your history to um, author of your future. That's the entire premise of one of the future exercises, or the future self exercise that we have in our awareness to action course. As a matter of fact, I think our next step is to find out a way to give that part of the course away for free, because it is so powerful. We don't want to put it behind a paywall, because that future self exercise, you can see yourself, basically write what you want to become, and then start working towards that. Identify what the difference is between who you are now and who you want to be, and forgive yourself along the way for the times that you slip.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it's powerful. I mean, to just be able to take this first step, understand, just hearing these words, and hopefully it's having some sort of impact, and it's waking you up in some way. It's like, but you got to take action.
Mhm.
It's like, because it's like, it's just the way it works. I mean, this stuff, doesn't go away by, compartmentalizing and packing it away. Like, you're not packing away anything. You're just fooling yourself by doing that. Uh, and forgiveness, as we've talked about here, and as you can hear, is just so incredibly powerful. So what's the first step? And here's a couple action steps that, that you can take in order to just begin to experience even just a little bit of what forgiveness or forgiveness kind of feels like. Here's one that I like, this exercise. Write the letter you'll never send. And
Mm.
here's some of the steps. Like, sit down and write a letter to your father, to yourself, or to whomever carries the weight. Right? Don't edit it. Don't soften it. Say what actually happened, what it cost you, and then end it with one sentence that begins something like, and I'm choosing to put this down because, and then just keep going. You don't have to mail it. You don't need to respond to it, but like this one, I'm a big journaler, John.
Oh,
Just
I
by
know.
simply the act of writing moves the experience out of your body. It begins to kind of objectify the feelings and the thoughts that come along with it. It begins to change the resentment that you might be experiencing and the tension that you might have. And again, this is just a simple way of just getting lighter just by writing a letter. And then who knows what, it's amazing. You do an exercise like that, and you think it's like, oh, what? Okay, I'll try one in Jon and Will's ridiculous exercises. Okay, I'm gonna do this one exercise, and then it's just like, holy shit! Like, I feel lighter. Number one, I never thought about that before. I never had that particular thought about this relationship, about my dad, or this moment. And then all of a sudden, you start to see things differently because you took one action, one first step. So, highly recommend. Highly, highly recommend. Writing a letter and don't even send it. Just get it down on paper. Take that one thing that it just keeps rolling around your head about, like, why did he do that? Or why would he say that to me? And just, put it down, forgive, and just see what could potentially happen. Um, the next one, if you want to do this one, John,
Yeah.
I glad to do this one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got you.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the next one is we've always talked about name it to tame it, or we hear that
Yeah.
quite often, right?
Great point.
Well, um, this is similar to that, and it's saying what we said earlier in the show, saying something to the effect of, "He did the best he could," and meaning it just 1%.
Just saying it out
So
loud. Saying it out
yeah,
loud.
saying that out loud, saying it out loud. He did the best he could, and then meaning it just 1%. Like, you don't have to believe it fully, but if you're able to, uh, if you're able to crack the door, here's a metaphor or analogy for you. I always get those backwards. I think an analogy is when you say it's like something. So I guess this
Right.
one is an analogy, right?
Right.
In the morning, our kids will sometimes come in the bedroom super early in the morning, and they'll just crack the door, and then our dogs. I have a Belgian Malinois Shepherd mix, and then a little Mountain Cur. They're medium-sized dogs. As soon as that door is cracked, they bust through that door, and that now the door is wide open. And that's all you need, is just that crack of the door, and that process. If you can start that process of at least starting to believe, or at least say it out loud, that he did the best that he could, that's going to allow you to begin a process that begins with not with a feeling, but with a decision, and then the partial willingness to at least say that out loud activates a shift. So, say the sentence, notice what your body does, and then get curious about what it is that you're feeling and what you're resisting, rather than fighting. Just get curious about it rather than fighting it, and that reframe, that makes it possible, is moving from what's wrong with him to what happened to him, right? Because we did this exercise And I actually talked about it with uh, Tara and uh,
EJ.
EJ. Yeah, thank you. We love you, Aaron. EJ, it's just I didn't get much sleep last night, so my memory is bad. But yeah, so we spoke about this with them. I went to this training, trauma retreat, quote unquote, where we did Geneogram, I think it is Geneogram, and basically outlined, okay, from our grandparents, what life did they live? Where did they live? What traumas were they exposed to? And so instead of saying what's wrong with those people, you say, okay, what happened to them? And then we drew a line right above ourselves in the whole family tree, if you will, and said, okay, this is where this particular aspect of our generational trauma, this is where it stops. It stops with me. And because it has to be a decision, like I said, it's a decision, not a feeling. And that question, shifting that question from what's wrong with him to what happened to him, that's a huge way to do that. Now, it doesn't excuse the impact, right? It doesn't excuse them for what they did, but it just makes the story human. And a human story, again, human, I think human should be just synonymous with imperfect. A
Yeah.
human story can be forgiven in a way that, a bad guy's story, a
Yeah.
villain's story cannot.
Yeah. Or it should be, flawed, doing the best they can. So whatever we can put like a couple words together for that. It's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, 'cause here's the thing about like why this even matters, why we even have something like Father's Day is because we are hardwired with love, connection, belonging, and it's just like that love on the inside. It's like, it's there within your dad, within you. And forgiveness is a way to remind yourself of that love, and also maybe bring more love to yourself or other people by being more forgiveful, forgiveness, forgiveful, I guess. I don't know.
Forgiving.
Forgiving. Yeah, there you go. Duh. Okay. Well, I mean, but also it's just like, so here's the last thing you could do. It's like, maybe just take some time and, jot down, what would my, the unforgiven version of what would the forgiving version of me do instead of the
Mm,
unforgiving version of me do? And this could be just
mm,
a very great exercise. And if you want to know the unforgiving self, then it's probably who you are right now. If you're still holding resentment to your father, right? So you can still have that same relationship, or you can make a shift. And it could be something very simple, like a father to his son or father to his family. Just by being more present. That could be putting down your phone, or instead of like carrying all the weight of the day to the table, it's like maybe you take a couple moments before you step into the house, before you sit down at the dinner table, and just kind of self-regulate with some breathing. It could even just be really seeing, you know, um, your family, or from a son to a father, it's like seeing your father for just who he is, and just to kind of forgiving him for a lot of things we've already talked about. It just really starts with taking different action. And hopefully this episode kind of woke you up to become more aware of the actions that you're taking, and maybe you can blaze a different a path forward.
yeah. In the I think it was either the late '80s, early '90s, and I'm probably gonna. Was it Mike and the Mechanics? I don't know.
Maybe that's a band.
The
Yeah.
the song "In the Living Years." I think that was the title of the song, and it's a
Mm.
song that they wrote to his father, to the lead singer's father, and it says, "Say it loud, say it proud." No, no, sorry. Say it loud, say it clear, and then goes into something to the effect of, "You can listen as long as you hear," because he's speaking to his father. Yeah, I see you there looking it up over there,
Yeah.
Will. So thanks for keeping me honest. But the whole point of the song is, say it while you can. Say I forgive you while you can, because like Will and I, both our fathers are still alive. I would love to say I forgive you to my father, and I'm going to. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make a phone call right after this. And he's probably going to be like, "What are you forgiving me for?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't even know what I'm forgiving you for." but yeah. What'd you find there, Will?
Here we go. Here, this is the verse. It goes, "Every generation blames the one before,
There it
and
is.
all
Yes,
their
thank you.
frustrations come beating at your door. I know that I'm a prisoner to my father, held so dear. I know that I'm a hostage to all his hopes and fears. I just wish I could have told him in the
In
living
the living
years.
years. Dude, I'm getting chill bumps. I used to love that song. Was I right? Is it called In the Living Years, Mike and
Yeah, it is.
Mechanics?
Here in the living years by Mike and the Mechanics, starting
All
with the
right.
opener verse, right? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So,
Wow.
all right. My memory's not so terrible, but yeah,
Yeah.
that I remember that song used to move me, 30, 40 years ago. And now as we're older, my father's closer to the end of whatever this thing is that we call life. And, I need to tell him while he can, while in the living years. So, um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I think it's how regretful would it be if you don't if you don't
right.
forgive them. One thing I was listening about forgiveness, and if you think of people on their deathbed, what do? Oh my God, I
Yeah.
forgive you, or I'm so sorry, asking for forgiveness. Can you forgive me? Because this is with the lack of forgiveness gets in the way of a real rich, satisfying, fulfilling relationship, and that relationship can just really have an incredible impact on your life, and it can just help you create more meaningful and connected and loving relationships with everyone that you have. Because if you're holding this energy of not forgiving and this vengeance and this anger and this guilt and this shame because of something that happened maybe so long ago, it's affecting every part of you in some way, and you can't compartmentalize it. Just like it's all there. So do what you need to do. I hope this is inspiring to do what you need to do to not have this energy of an unforgiven situation continue
Yeah.
to get in
Either
the
way.
way. Yeah, either
Either
way.
way, right?
Yeah,
Either your unforgiven situation or you being unforgiven, maybe asking for forgiveness too. So, hey, I think that's a great way to wrap it up for the fathers out there, for the sons.
yeah,
We all
yeah.
for the daughters. We all have fathers. Maybe we don't have them in our lives anymore, but we've had them. So if you don't have the opportunity to forgive them in
Still
the
write a
living
letter.
years, you still can still write that letter.
You can still write that
But
letter, or yeah,
yeah, but also to the fathers out there, thanks for doing the best that you can. Thanks for doing the best that you can, and we do from Men Talking Mindfulness wish you the best and happiest Father's Day, and that's a wrap from my end. Will.
yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe one of the biggest gifts you can give your dad is to have that conversation with him.
Yeah,
And this
amen.
goes from like a daughter to her father.
For sure, for
100%,
sure.
100%. It's just like, hey, dad, and have that heart to heart. It will probably be the biggest gift that you can give him. Or if you're a father out there that needs to be, you know, um, you know, let go of some energy that's happened in your relationship, then take this opportunity because it could really shift the way that everything happens in your life and how you see the world. So, um, good luck. Good luck. It's
Yeah,
it's good. It takes a lot of courage, but when you get on the other side of that, a whole another world is waiting for you. So,
yeah,
thanks for
yeah. And
thanks
if
for
and if you've done this, or if you do this after this episode, you can write comments on Spotify or on the YouTube version and let
That's a
us
great
know. Let
idea.
us know what you did, how it felt. If you feel comfortable, we don't have any authority to make you do anything.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
hey, if you feel comfortable, share it because I'm sure other people would benefit from hearing that and seeing that.
yeah,
So
yeah. And we can
thank
comment
you.
on Substack too. So yeah, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
No,
you,
I was
guys.
just going to say thank you all for tuning in. And again, happy Father's Day to the fathers out there. Until
Yeah,
next time, take care, everyone.
peace, everybody. Happy Father's Day. Thank you.